Hey mate, it's Camille. How have you been? I just have to take a sec before I dive into today's episode, an awesome couples interview that I know you're going to love, to respond to all the comments, DMs and emails I received about last week's episode about the anxiety that some people feel and the nagging worry of their wedding just not being fun enough, different enough, cool enough. Essentially, what if your guests think that your wedding is boring? It seemed to strike a chord with you, and you let me know about your own fears and how some of them actually drain your joy and enthusiasm towards your wedding, and worse still, your marriage. I also loved getting your messages about my personal wedding story and the feedback that I received from 4 of our guests when I asked them what their core memory of our wedding was. You made me laugh and cry, and at the end of the day, I loved that you felt comfortable enough to share with me too. Thank you. There is really no point in me constantly putting my ideas and advice out there without getting any response. So I really appreciate if you're able to take a minute to tell me your thoughts, to share your wins and your frustrations. Because also, you can bet that if you're feeling like something is freaking you out, that someone else is feeling it too. So it only makes sense to air it, share it, and learn from it together, right? Maybe your challenges can inspire a new episode topic and then help someone else out too, which is one of the many reasons I'd like to give a shout out to Mega Trizzle. I can't say it without laughing. Mega Trizzle, who left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts for us this week. She says, Unbridely has been the number 1 podcast I've enjoyed while wedding planning. I appreciate the short length of episodes. She gets straight to the point and provides digestible yet substantive content. I sound like dietary fibre. All super relevant regardless of age, location, sexual orientation, etc. Very inclusive. Her course on writing vows was pure gold, and I recommend this podcast to all my engaged friends and family. My heart burst with pride and happiness when I read this. Thank you, Mega Trizzle. It's so incredibly generous of you. But also, I'm not sure if you know, but when a podcast episode is rated and reviewed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it also has the potential to positively affect the algorithms that drive the Unbridely podcast up the charts and helps to gain more downloads, which also means that my sponsors and affiliates are happier and I have more clout to interview even better guests with even more relevant topics and stories for you. It's a literal win-win-win. So thank you for those that take the time. But for today, let me introduce you to Alex and Mikaela, because they are here to challenge traditional notions of what a wedding needs to be. Because for a very long time, depending on your country or religion or culture, of course, it's been expected that people like us do things like this, and marriage is a rite of passage. It shows you're grown up and independent, and it's the very first step towards starting a family, which, as you and I both know, is a complete pile of horse shit and not even vaguely true in this day and age. As of the date of recording this, it's 2023, and a lot has changed, which in turn has distilled an even bigger question. Perhaps you've wondered, what's the point of even having a wedding? Or why do you want to get married in the first place? In lots of my conversations with people, they're starting to question, why do we want to do this and what does it even mean? This was definitely the case for Alex and Mikaela, who chose an urban winery and wine bar venue for their take on their wedding celebration. So in this episode, the newlyweds share their must-have and must-not-haves wedding checklist, how starting the day early with their greyhounds, local coffee, and their photographer was one of the best decisions they made, and also how their segmented guest list ensured that their immediate family and friends got to spend a little more quality time with them. Plus, they tell us about the things they forgot but don't regret, and how their shindig was so enticing that they even had wedding crashes too. Let's get stuck into it. Unbridely is a community of pro-wedding vendors who believe in freedom and integrity in weddings, giving you options, solutions, tips and tricks to create the experience and memories that you and your fiancé really want and deserve. because we believe that weddings are a team sport. With how-tos, stories and interviews with recently married couples, we find out what went right and what they'd change if they could go back and do it all over again. I'm Camille, and welcome to the Unbridely podcast. I want to say hi, Mikaela. Hi, Alex.
Hey.
Hi, Camille.
So good to be able to see you again after your wedding, inverted commas. Do you still call it a wedding?
Yeah, I think it's a nice shortcut for people to understand that we exchanged rings and celebrated, I think.
It was still wedding enough to call a wedding, I think.
Yeah, you be the judge.
That might be a really good segue there, Alex, because there were certain requirements on, the wedding, wasn't there?
From my end, there was. I mean, there's a whole long backstory to the things that we didn't want. But my absolutes when we came to meet you were I definitely wanted everyone to have a drink in hand from the first minute. And I definitely didn't want a first dance. And I definitely didn't want to do vows. And I eventually won on that one.
Yeah, and there was another one. No cake.
Oh, yeah, no cake.
No cake.
Yeah. Are you able to share a little bit about why you just weren't interested in those aspects of a traditional wedding?
Well, I think that leans into the backstory a bit. That my disclaimer would be that I was never thought that I wanted to get married, let alone have a wedding. And Mikaela whittled me down eventually. But,
hey, you proposed, buddy.
Yeah. Under duress.
Oh, nice. Alex.
No. But I think it comes from a combination of things. I think it's like I found it hard to appreciate what marriage had to offer me, and I had some hang-ups about what the institution of marriage represented in 2023, and I wasn't sure that was necessarily what that I wanted to engage with that. So that's like kind of the marriage part, and then obviously I say I caved, but I didn't. I was excited to get married. I just changed my tune on that, and that was mostly Mikaela's influence. And then in terms of a wedding, I guess similar, like the institution of a wedding and the formality. And I think for me, it was the presenting myself and us as a couple in front of people felt a bit sterile and non-authentic, and also scary. And so I think it was those things combined, I guess, was my thought.
Yeah. Oh, Alex, thank you so much for sharing that. The reason why I pushed you a little bit is because I know there's engaged couples out there who are thinking exactly the same thing, because I get messages all the time just saying, I love this person. I want to spend the rest of my life with them. Wouldn't mind having a party, but does it have to be a marriage? Does it have to be a wedding? And just giving voice to that, I think, is really important. So thanks, Alex. So knowing all that background, what was the plan, the theme, the focus when you went, okay, we are getting married, we're having a wedding, because you did it your own special way?
I don't know that we really had a plan.
You see?
We just built the airplane as we were flying it. I think we just kind of had a general vibe of let's throw a party and let's have fun. And
we had our definite don'ts list, as we sort of talked about before. And I think it kind of started from there.
Yeah. And I think each part of a wedding, we were like, do we want to do that? Nothing was really a given. So I think each kind of bit, we kind of just thought, bridal party, we're like, do we want to do that? Nah. And just kind of figured it out as we went. It wasn't all clear. It wasn't a clear picture at the very beginning at all.
I think that's really good to say that out loud, Mikaela. Thanks for saying it. Because a lot of couples go, okay, we're engaged. Holy hell, let's write, effectively like a business plan on what we're doing, how we're doing it. And no one really knows.
No, we didn't do any of that, did we?
No, I did some spreadsheeting around budgeting and how much is this going to cost. But apart from that, we didn't really think about how the day would go. To be honest, I thought that once you had your vendors locked in, it was finished. The planning was finished.
And what did you discover?
Then all the vendors had questions. I was like, oh, these are very good questions that I have no answers for.
You went with a really unique venue, in a city. Are you able to describe Audio Bowden for, someone who's not maybe from Adelaide?
Where do you start with audio? So it's a old 1880s Methodist church is what the building is, in a like ex-industrial suburb that's now up and coming, has been up and coming for 15 years, like most of Adelaide. And it's a working winery. And so effectively they've gutted this gorgeous old sandstone church and made it a big wet space. And then they have pulled all of the equipment and stuff to the side, which meant that we had barrels of wine, which are pretty, but also like forklifts included in our backdrop. But I guess what the biggest thing we had on our side is the space that's used for essentially what our wedding was, a handful of like weekends of the year anyway, as a like wine bar / party space / they call it a playground, a grown-up playground. And so it had like the disco ball and the lights and the, quirky art hung up already. So we didn't really have to do anything to make it look a certain way because it was its own character already.
It was effortlessly cool.
Yeah, it's a cool spot.
Yeah.
I think its Instagram shows off its like how it kind of looks.
Yeah, very, very cool space. And so you started out with sort of a plan, but not really a plan. And how long was your planning lead up?
I started looking at venues in January 2023, just kind of getting like thinking about it, thinking I would probably have to book quite a bit in advance. And we ended up getting married in June 2023, so 6 months.
Which was not the original plan. Like the plan had been to look for that summer maybe. So we like came forward.
What changed your mind?
What was it? I think that, well, we fell in love with audio when we saw it because we were like, this is just easy. Like everything's there and that's perfect and it's just our vibe. And going here means I won't have to think about what color napkins I want and like hire chair, all that stuff I just didn't want to think about.
I do think they came after. I think we decided audio after we decided winter. I think we said, let's just do a winter wedding.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Because we were contacting other venues. I think it was just life stuff. We figured out like Alex had some big exams and we thought, oh, let's have a party after those, like a couple of weeks after those, because we didn't know if he'd pass. And so if he didn't pass, he was going to have to resit in the summer. And we thought, let's not risk that. Let's just do it straight after the first sitting, because if he failed, this is so bleak, if he failed, at least you wouldn't have to be studying during wedding time because it would be in that natural break time, regardless of whether you'd passed or not.
Except then that all kind of fell apart because like audio only had certain weekends available and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't give you good answer why it came forward, but it did and we stuck to it.
So it just fit your life better.
Yeah.
What made it an easy choice was we were like, oh, a party in winter sounds fun. People are free and usually ready for a party. And also audio was like an all-weather sort of venue, so it didn't matter if it was going to rain. And they had their only free wedding day for the year was in winter. So we were just like, oh, well, all roads, converge on that. So we'll do that.
You were saying, Mikaela, you thought the hard bit would be, we've got the venue, we've got the date. I've chosen a photographer and I was going to legally marry you. But then we had questions. Was that the hard part? What was the hardest part of wedding planning for you?
I really do not like event planning at all. And the hardest part, I think, was like everything's new in that you've never planned, I hadn't planned a wedding before. And so I had no prior knowledge to rely on, aside from experiencing weddings and trying to predict how the day would go and therefore come up with a run sheet. Like I found it really hard to think about how long each part of the day would take and how to order things because you want it to kind of be free flowing and not too like choreographed and jilted and scheduled, but you can't go in with no plan because there'll be chaos. So kind of trying to find a balance between them without even knowing what might or might not work was tricky. I didn't like that.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
I think because we also didn't have a lot of like things, like we didn't have a ceremony and then a break and then the reception. We didn't have a lot of speeches. We didn't have a sit down meal. We didn't disappear for photos. We did that beforehand. And so there was actually, in a weird way, there was like people were asking about when all these things were that were going to be part of it, I think as well. So trying to, make that.
We couldn't follow a standard run sheet.
Yeah.
There wasn't a like template.
Yeah.
Because the template didn't really fit what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't just go onto Pinterest and go, yeah, that's us.
Yeah. I tried.
You chose to have like your portraits together and see each other before everyone was invited that night to Audio Bowden, didn't you?
Yeah, we decided there were two reasons. One was that we didn't want to have to leave the party to go and get photos done. Like we were there
and we paid for a drinks package, you know.
Yeah. And there was going to be so little time to talk to everyone throughout the night that we wanted to maximize that. And the other thing was that the day was, I don't know, we wanted to be able to spend time with each other on the day and connect with each other on the day. So to have a bit of time before the ceremony to get that time together was really nice.
Because we didn't actually see each other very much during our wedding.
No.
You think, right, talking to everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's really not unusual though to be pulled in opposite directions and just sort of come past each other every now and then and go, "How you going?" So you had your photos beforehand, but then everyone was invited to Audio Bowden, and per the minimum request there, Alex, must be given a drink the second they stepped in.
Some got 3 or 4 drinks.
And then were they having drinks for half an hour or an hour before we got you married?
The way that we arranged it, the short answer to your question is about half an hour, but there were some people who probably were hitting it for more like an hour because we had we wanted to be able to have a quick catch up with really close family and friends when we first arrived. Similar reason of we wanted to spend time together, and then we wanted to make sure we had a chance to spend some time with close friends and family, really small group. And then about half an hour after that was when the invitation had instructed to arrive. So there were some party people who had really been there for a little while, but most people, it was about half an hour of drinking.
Yeah, you had the VIPs first and then the rabble. And about how many guests did you end up with?
130, 129, plus 5 children.
Because it was pumping.
It was, yeah, it really was. I don't know if you remember, I made a comment as I came down the aisle. I was like, "Whoa, there's so many people." I heard my friend be like, "You're the one that invited them all."
You had your photos, you had your guests come, have a drink, and then we got into the ceremony. And the ceremony was quite short and sweet, and that was very deliberate, wasn't it? But then your guests, they really got involved. Do you remember?
That's probably the drinks beforehand.
I think it really helped.
Yeah.
But there was this whole sort of, not heckling, I wouldn't say it was badly motivated. It was just everyone felt very connected to what was going on.
Everyone felt comfy.
Felt like they needed to speak.
Yeah.
But it was a bit of fun.
Yeah, that was really fun.
And so I wanted to ask, the best bit. What was the best bit of the whole wedding?
It's a hard question, isn't it? Best bit. I mean, the final 3 hours where it was just like dance floor debauchery of all comers was just an absolute delight. Like children, grandparents, friends from all corners, people who never would normally hit the dance floor. I think that was a real testament to the fact that people felt really at ease in that space. So I think that was, for me, was just the silliness of the dance floor for the last few hours was really something else.
Yeah, that was really good.
Because, of course, the ceremony space was transformed into your dance floor. Yeah, I'd taken off, but I can just imagine.
Yeah. We've got some good
photo evidence.
What about for you, Mikaela?
I'm trying to think of my favourite moment. I have a few. I think it was those moments of real connection that you had throughout the day. Like when we were at the altar and just having those little whispers to each other, which I thought was very subtle, but someone else had said, your celebrant was just trying to start the show and you guys just wouldn't stop chatting. So sorry about that.
I think it's kind of nice.
Yeah.
But, personally, I prefer it that you're sort of,
connected to each other.
You're connecting up there. Yes, exactly.
And I think there are some more of those sorts of moments throughout the night. Yeah. Being able to have really meaningful chats with people and reflecting and I can't really give specifics.
It's hard because it feels like it was 7 hours in total. And it feels like about 20 minutes when you're
Yeah.
there.
I just had the best time. Like, it was so much more fun than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it would be fun, but I was like blown away with how fun it was. I had so much fun.
I had sore cheeks. Like, I actually did have sore cheeks.
Yeah.
I could see that. But it's also the people that you surrounded yourself with. You know, there were no passengers that night.
Only the closest 130.
Everyone was like on board. It was very cool.
Yeah. They really brought the vibe.
Let's face facts. You've always been the planner and the organiser. And your fiancé's eyes glaze over a little when you start talking about the details of your wedding day. But you really need someone to share this all with, to bounce ideas off, and someone who's not going to ruin the surprises, but also be supportive and maybe even offer a different perspective. So when you're needing to get a second opinion about your bridesmaid, your in-laws, or your first dance song, Unbridely Couples is your safe space. Unbridely hosts a private Facebook community where modern engaged couples can share ideas, chat and solve problems, and generally just get freaking excited about their wedding. We also have a curated list of experienced wedding vendor professionals in there to offer suggestions and tips, insight into how to get the most out of your big day. But with no unsolicited DMs or pushy sales tactics, it's just not what Unbridely is about. So you can search for the Unbridely Couples group on Facebook or just click on the link in the show notes. I'll see you in there. Can I ask, when you decided to do your wedding this way, like how did you decide where you were going to allocate your budget?
Well, I mean, I feel like some things are going to be big chunks of the budget regardless. Like, we had decided that we were going to have between like 100 and 130 guests. And so that kind of straight away makes food and drink, you know, a significant part of the budget.
We decided pretty quick we were not going to have a sit-down meal. So I guess that sort of determined a pretty like rough idea of cost for that too.
Yeah. I think there are lots of things we didn't do, but I think it made it cheaper naturally. Like, I'm trying to think, like, we decided that the space wouldn't suit really structured bouquets because it was a very relaxed, fun space. And so we just bought a whole bunch of poppies, like so many poppies, and Alex's sisters and some friends just helped throw them in some vases we got from the op shop. So there were those sorts of natural things where we're like, actually, the space suits this and that happens to be a lot cheaper. So hell yeah. And there were some other things I think that it's like, just does it pass the like test of, is this something I want to spend my money on? And a lot of things don't pass that test.
Your beautiful gown, Mikaela, like it was wedding-ish, but it wasn't a big puffy princess, millions of petticoats sort of situation. It was pared back. I feel like everything was just a little bit pared back and you weren't in a tux, Alex. And there wasn't a big cake in the corner and things like that.
Yeah.
But obviously the dance floor was important.
Yeah. The DJ was really important. Yeah.
Yeah, the dance hall was important. DJ was important.
Absolutely.
Drinks were important.
Drinks were important.
Food was important.
Food was important, yeah.
We didn't want to have like alternate drop chicken and steak. And I think we wanted to, as best possible, do something that represented us and the people around us and the wedding with the food. And so we wanted to do local Adelaide sort of things.
And so what was that, Alex? What kind of food was it? Could you describe it?
Mickey organised we had like finger food entree things, and we did oysters and ceviche and a couple of other like little things. And
that was by Cargo Catering, who were awesome.
Yeah, they were amazing. And they're like near us in Goodwood. And they did an incredible job actually. And then we did pizza from Sonny's Pizza, which is like, you know, classic Adelaide institution. And they just kept pumping out hot pies. And then dessert was Cargo Catering as well.
Yeah. And I think some other local choices we made were like your suit and my dress were made by local just tailors and dressmaker, which was really nice. We made it more personal as well, you know, being able to meet these people and have chats and that was really nice.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Sometimes when I talk about weddings like yours with new starry-eyed couples, they just go, oh, no, we couldn't possibly, because they've got to basically get the idea over the line with their parents or with their friends or something like this. Did you have any difficult conversations with your family or friends?
Nothing that I'd describe as difficult. I think we're really lucky in that our parents are pretty happy-go-lucky sort of people and know us and understand what we'd want and why. There were I think there were some surprises. I think I could certainly read surprise on parents' face, my mum's face sometimes.
And certainly I had a number of people because Mickey was there when everyone was arriving. She didn't emerge at the aisle. And there was people like, oh shit, was I meant to have seen Mikaela? People were saying that. But there was no pushback. And I also we've been together for 9 years. So I think at this point, people were just fine, do it your way. We want the wedding.
Yeah, just bring us a party, please.
We'll do anything at this point.
Yeah, literally.
But there were some, I remember one parent being shocked that we were having pizza at a wedding. Pizza at a wedding.
A lot of people were really shocked that we didn't do a first dance. That was the thing that people our age were like, really, you're not going to do a first dance? And I just thought that's for me, that's one of the weirdest, most I don't know, personally, I find that to be one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? It just feels a bit unnatural to me personally. But a lot of people were really surprised by that.
Yeah. And I think to some extent, the reason we were having the wedding was to get married, but also we wanted to be able to bring people together and celebrate and show them a great time. And so there were some things that initially I wasn't planning on doing that then I thought, you know what? I think that means a lot to X, or I think that means a lot to Y. Yeah. And I really love them. And, this date isn't just about me. And so I'm happy to bring that along. It doesn't destroy our vision. So there were some things that I thought, you know what, I'm going to do that because I love that person. And that's a really important memory for them. And there were other things where, we get a bit of shock and surprise in the describing things in the lead up that you just be just trust me. That's what we want. And that's all it really took to win them over. And then I was a bit worried that because the day wasn't really going to follow the traditional script, that people would just be really confused and I don't know what I thought was going to happen. But I remember talking to you about it, Camille, and being we're all going to be there. I'm going to be there. How are people going to know that it's time to start the ceremony? And you're I will just tell them. I will say, come on, guys, we're going to get these guys married. And I was perfect. I think that honestly relieved so much of my anxiety. I was someone's going to be in charge. Someone's going to set the scene. Someone's going to guide these people through what is not going to follow the standard script. So they won't be lost.
Exactly. I think as long as people have an outline and they sort of know what to expect and what's coming up, then everyone's reasonably happy. And, a big part of your celebration was they walked in, they got drinks, and straight after the ceremony, the food started to come out. So everyone's in a good mood.
What more could you want?
When everyone was mingling, and I do think the overwhelming thing that people say afterwards is oh, it was just so you guys. And I think that sense of authenticity really put people at ease with the whole thing. It felt very natural for everyone.
That's awesome. Testament to you guys too. So on the day, you got ready together? Yes? Or was there a moment when you got to see each other all dressed up?
There was a moment because we were together in the morning to walk the dogs and then separated to get ready and then came together around midday-ish,
or 1 o'clock or something. Yeah.
To do photos and say hello and have a cuppa.
And so when you woke up on the morning of your wedding, how did it feel?
I think I thought, whoa, it's pretty early to get up and walk the dog. It's a Saturday. I'd like to sleep in a bit longer. It just felt like a normal day. Nah, it just felt like a normal day. It was a normal day, and then our photographer just happened to be there in the morning.
His pitch was I want to be there from the very start of your day until the very end. His name is James Field, and he was our little sidekick for the whole day. So that was really nice. And I think starting the day in a relatively normal way, walking the dogs, getting a coffee at our favorite local spot, that was nice.
And did anything funny or unusual happen on the day?
Oh boy, we got a few actually. Yes. Well, you've already touched on the low-key heckling, which is really funny. I actually love that. I thought that was so good.
Including you heckling anyone who was speaking as well.
Yeah, during speeches, I was doing a bit of heckling.
You
Oh.
forgot your bouquet.
Oh, yeah, I forgot my bouquet. So my bouquet was at the venue, but I forgot to walk down the aisle with it. And I didn't realize until
We were just a bunch of poppies.
we were signing the marriage certificate. And I was like, oh, where's my bouquet? And made me laugh so much. But it also made me think about there is a trade-off when you're planning a wedding between how much control you want to have versus how relaxed you want to be. And the more you strive for perfection and control, although it might result in everything going perfectly, I think there would be a trade-off in anxiety and stress. And so I think we must have opted for that more relaxed, we'll see how it goes strategy. And it meant I forgot my bouquet, but I'm happy with that trade-off because I felt so relaxed all day and no one noticed, not even me, until later.
Really good point.
The other funny thing I reckon you're about to say was we had wedding crashes.
Yeah.
So looking through the photos afterwards, there's 3 people unidentified having a great time.
Having such a fun time in the dance floor.
And you still don't know who they are?
No. They were dressed for the occasion.
They were right. The dress code is right.
They were contributing to the dance floor. They mustn't have caused any trouble because we didn't hear anything about it. And no one knows who they are.
I feel like we need to put out like a wanted poster or something, or...
I mean, honestly, they look like they're having such a good time. They could start like a hire a crowd sort of business or something. Yeah.
I think people are trying to cut down their guest numbers though, guys.
That's right. There wasn't a thing at the door. They didn't know.
Yeah, you need a clicker. So knowing what you know now, because what was it? It was only like a month.
Yeah, a month.
So you're pretty fresh. But knowing what you know now, is there anything that you would go back and change?
Not be studying like 20 hours a week for an exam. Actually, maybe I wouldn't change that because I didn't have to do much preparation. Mickey did most of it. So I'd probably keep that actually.
So you think it was perfect? Nothing to change?
I honestly don't think so.
I don't think so either. Yeah, it was like everything I wanted. I think you were relying on your guests to really bring the vibes. And so there's only so much you can control.
Alcohol.
And they brought the vibes. And so it was like perfect. Even I'm like, I don't care that I forgot my bouquet. If it meant that I had to plan the 15 minutes leading up to the ceremony, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I didn't want to have to follow a schedule and keep checking a piece of paper. So that's a trade-off I'm willing to accept.
You said something really, really crucial there, guys. Your guests. You can plan these things any way you want, quite frankly, to the nth degree, or keep it a bit looser and more about how you guys are feeling. But it's those people that you invite along or don't invite along who just rock up, who they seriously make it. They make it. And you need every single person on that guest list to, as I said before, not be a passenger, but be ready to have the best time. And that's how you get the best wedding. I remember coming home and my husband said, how'd it go? And I went, yeah, it was loose and it was a little bit wild, but God, it was good. And I almost wanted to stay. And he goes, you don't want to stay anywhere. And I went, yeah, exactly. That's how good it felt,
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you both, what are your biggest wedding planning tips for other couples?
I didn't do much of the nitty gritty, but I had some pretty clear ideas of what I didn't want, which we spoke about at the start. And audio was like a brain spark of mine. And so I'll claim that. No, I think it's I don't know, my biggest tip I think would be to know what it is from a marriage and a wedding that are the definite do's and the definite don'ts, and most of it will be in the middle and indifferent, and you can work that out as you go. But I think for me, it was very clear those things, and that whittled down to a middle grey area that we could work with.
I think building on that, one is they were trusting each other because there are going to be things that one person finds really important and the other doesn't, and just knowing which of those things are things that you go, no, I'm just going to trust you. This is important to you and we'll make it happen versus I'm not really comfortable with that. Is that really something that's so important to you? And just having those conversations and telling the difference between those things. The other one would be I know it's hard and easier said than done, but try not to feel obliged to do anything. and really question each of the different components and if it's what you want to spend your time on, to spend your money on, and you can stop and think, wait, but why? And the third thing would be just to really trust your vendors. Like, it gets to a certain point where you don't have control and you just have to go, look, I know I've got a killer celebrant, photographer, caterers, and I just need to trust them to do what they do best because they're the experts, and you just have to let go and just enjoy it.
I love that. I like the last one.
No bias.
I do think it's so true. And I think I felt a lot more confident and comfortable going with our plan when I knew somebody else got it and could lead it. Because you just want to be able to enjoy the day. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got a wedding planner, then that's a totally different situation to planning the wedding yourself. Because at some point, you've got to take off the planner hat and put on, I'm getting married hat. And the idea is that you have a good time and that you enjoy it. And you have the capacity as well to be able to drink it all in and remember it in the future. And so, yeah, if you can't do that handover to your vendors, you're stuck being the planner.
Yeah, that's so true.
That's really true.
I walked in and you guys were both surrounded by groups of people, just laughing, smiling, chatting, drinks in hand, clinking glasses. And it was just the best vibe. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing the different way that you did it, planning something that worked for you rather than doing perhaps what people have done in the past or think you should or, associate with weddings. You had a massive party and you just happened to get married.
It's a nice way of summarizing it, for sure.
It was very cool. You guys, you have very busy lives. I'm going to leave you to it, but thank you so much for spending time and sharing with us, and hopefully catch up with you real soon.
Our pleasure. Thanks for having us. And thanks for being our amazing celebrant.
Yeah, you're amazing. Thank you.
Bye, guys. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Unbridely podcast. For the links and resources we mentioned, please head to the show notes. And if you love the show, please review and subscribe on the podcast platform you're on now so you don't miss out on a single episode. Thanks so much for listening. And remember, weddings are a team sport. Catch you soon.